Welcome to today's lecture on ethics in advertising. In this session, we'll explore the ethical and legal challenges that shape the advertising industry. You'll learn about misleading and offensive ads, how professionals self regulate to avoid crossing legal lines, and the growing importance of corporate social responsibility. We'll also touch on plagiarism, its impact on creative work, and the legal considerations that affect the creative process. So, with that said, let's get started. In the advertising world, ethical and legal boundaries aren't always black and white. There's often a gray area. While it's tempting to push the envelope to grab attention, we have to ask, is this ad truthful? Could it mislead consumers? Does it stereotype or offend? Are we using original ideas or are we at risk of plagiarism? Advertisers must balance creativity with responsibility, always considering how the message reflects on the brand and whether it upholds the standards of our industry. One major ethical challenge in advertising is the persistent lack of diversity, especially in creative leadership. Although the majority of advertising and PR students are women, very few rise to roles like executive PR director or chief creative officer. Globally, women make up only 27% of creative teams and just 22% of creative directors in the US. This imbalance is troubling, especially when you consider that women drive 80% of all consumer purchasing decisions. A lack of representation not only limits opportunity, but also affects how authentically brands can connect with diverse audiences. Even so, as creative professionals, you'll need to define your own ethical boundaries. Throughout your career, you may face projects that bring up internal tensions, known as dialectics, where personal values clash with professional assignments. You might be asked to work on campaigns for products or industries like firearms, political candidates, tobacco, or fast food. These might not break any laws, but they could cross an ethical line for you personally. So ask yourself, what kind of ad would create that kind of tension for you? Recognizing those lines early will help you navigate your career with integrity. Now, did you know that the United States is one of only two countries in the world where advertising prescription drugs directly to consumers is legal? Every year, pharmaceutical companies spend billions of dollars on these ads, making them some of the top advertisers in the country. This massive spending shapes how we see and think about medicine and health. This is something that we need to think about from an ethical point of view. Similarly, the fast food industry spends billions of dollars each year on advertising, with much of their focus aimed at children and young adults. Research from Yale University has found a strong link between fast food advertising and rising rates of childhood obesity. This shows just how powerful marketing can be in shaping health behaviors from a young age. Okay, we've mentioned the pharmaceutical industry and the fast food industry in advertising. Let's talk now about political advertising. Political advertising is unique because corporations, political action committees, and unions have the same freedom of speech as individuals. Political campaigns often bring out intense and sometimes negative behavior. Many candidates seem to believe that almost anything is acceptable to win an election, trusting that once in office they'll serve the public well. What do you think about previous decisions by Twitter, now X, and Facebook where they've blocked certain political speech. These platforms had chosen to set their own ethical boundaries when it comes to what's allowed. However, the tides have shifted more in recent times. What are your views on this? Based on all this information and the questions raised, it is clear that advertising isn't black or white. But as you enter the creative space, there are certain questions that I think you should keep in mind. Are we portraying women as capable, active contributors in our society? Do our visuals and messages embrace diversity, or are we falling back on outdated racial stereotypes? Are we representing all groups with authenticity and respect? Or are we reducing them to exaggerated caricatures? Are we promoting unhealthy food or violent content to children who are still forming their values? Do we depict older adults as valued members of our community? Or do we turn them into punchlines? Are people with intellectual or physical disabilities shown in a way that emphasizes their strengths rather than their limitations? And finally, are we presenting a narrow view of what's normal, or are we reflecting the true diversity of the world we live in? Your creative choices matter, they shape culture. So, how will you choose to create? That's the question. Here are three ways to keep your moral compass balanced as a creative professional. First, create a code of conduct, something that clearly outlines the values and ethical standards you're committed to upholding. Second, prioritize diversity. That means more than just representation. It includes supporting cause related advertising and offering pro bono work to nonprofits that align with your values. And third, build a team that reflects those standards. Hire, promote, and retain people who are not only ethical, but also willing to challenge the status quo when necessary. These choices don't just shape your work, they shape your legacy. Now, corporate social responsibility or CSR is becoming even more important in the advertising business. CSR should be woven into every company's business model, not treated as an afterthought. It's not just about reacting to public pressure. CSR should be proactive, right? It's a proactive plan that reflects a company's values and long term goals. Companies that truly embrace CSR support the triple bottom line: people, number one, by valuing employees and communities, number two, planet, by minimizing environmental harm, and number three, profits through sustainable and ethical business practices. Always remember, CSR isn't just good PR and advertising, it's smart, responsible leadership as well. Now, on this slide, I've embedded a Pepsi commercial featuring Kendall Jenner. Take some time to review the commercial, but once you do so, ask yourself, is this an example of genuine corporate social responsibility? Or is it a case of advertisers trying to appear quote unquote woke without doing the real work? Does the message feel authentic? Or does it oversimplify serious social issues for the sake of selling a product? This is a critical moment to think about intention, impact, and responsibility in advertising. Essentially, advertisers understand that brands showcasing CSR often win big with consumers. But there's a catch: CSR can backfire, especially for global brands navigating different political and cultural landscapes. Take Nike, for example. The company promotes social justice in the US, yet it faced serious accusations of using forced labor connected to concentration camps. After offering even mild criticism, Nike faced backlash and retaliation from China. H&M also experienced boycotts in China after speaking out against human rights abuses. These cases show that CSR isn't simple, especially when global business intersects, colliding with ethical concerns. It's a delicate balance between value and markets. All right, let's talk about some of the legal issues that creatives often face. When it comes to this business, claims matter, especially claims of fact. Under the law, factual claims must be truthful. There can be no deception, no matter how small it is. Misleading the public comes with serious legal consequences. However, there's a bit more flexibility with non factual claims. These typically fall into two categories: one, puffery, and two, lifestyle claims. We'll talk more about these claims later in the lecture. Now, these types of claims usually escape legal scrutiny as they're seen as opinions or exaggerations and not promises. Now, remember, commercial speech, any form of commercial speech is protected by the First Amendment, but that protection doesn't give advertisers a free pass to mislead the public. Now, one ethical and legal dilemma many creatives face is plagiarism. And sometimes it happens simply because we haven't done our homework. Before starting a project, it's important to search the internet, explore design and award websites, and to talk to experienced professionals. This research can help us avoid costly mistakes. The real trouble begins when we knowingly use someone else's idea, thinking we won't get caught, but they will. If you're caught stealing a competitor's or coworker's concept, your reputation will obviously suffer, and that can make finding a new job very difficult. When developing concepts, always start from scratch. Use previous work as inspiration, but never copy ideas outright. Originality and integrity go hand in hand. All right, let's circle back to puffery. Puffery is a common advertising tactic that uses exaggerated language like superlatives or obvious overstatements to hype up a product. Think phrases like world's best coffee or unbeatable flavor. These claims aren't meant to be taken literally. The courts generally assume that consumers recognize puffery as just that: exaggeration, not deception. It's a way for brands to brag without making legally binding claims. On the other hand, lifestyle claims suggest that a product or service will improve the consumer's life, sometimes directly and sometimes more subtly. These claims tap into emotions and aspirations that using the product will make you happier, more confident, more attractive, or more successful. Whether stated outright or implied through imagery and tone, lifestyle claims are powerful marketing tools, but remember, they're selling a feeling, not a fact. At the same time, substantiation means you can and must prove what you claim in your advertising. This is especially important when you're comparing your products to a competitor or making an exclusive claim like only one with 24-hour protection or clinically proven to work better. If you can't back it up with credible evidence, you risk legal trouble and damage to your brand's reputation. Truth in advertising isn't optional, it's required. To extend our discussion on substantiation, let's talk about some of the common advertising claims and what's allowed or not. First, bait and switch. This is when a lower priced product is advertised but isn't actually available, pushing shoppers to buy a more expensive item instead. If the cheaper product is in limited supply, stores are legally required to inform customers. In the US, many shoppers still line up for Black Friday deals, knowing that specials might be limited. Online shopping has made this less of an issue, however, since consumers can now see how many items are left. Next, comparison ads must be truthful and specific. Now, if you claim your product is better, you need documented proof. Vague or inaccurate superiority claims are not accepted. This is especially important because many supplements, vitamins, and herbal remedies, none of which are approved by the FDA, often make unsubstantiated claims. And finally, greenwashing. This happens when companies promote small positive environmental actions to distract from their larger harmful impact on the planet. Consumers need to be aware of this tactic. Now, advertising in the US is regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC exists to protect consumers, and one of its main goals is to stop deceptive advertising. That includes ads on social media. According to FTC Disclosure 101 for influencers, if you're endorsing a product online, you must clearly disclose any material connection to the brand. That could mean being paid, receiving free or discounted products, or even having a personal or family connection to the company. The rule is simple. If there's a connection, you need to say so clearly and upfront. This is because transparency builds trust. Now, copyright plays a significant role in advertising. Copyright gives authors, artists, and composers the exclusive right to protect their original work from plagiarism or unauthorized use. While you can't copyright just an idea, once that idea is turned into a created or published work, it becomes protected. Copyright protection lasts for the creator's lifetime plus 70 years for published works, ensuring their rights and their legacy are respected for decades. In our business, we use a lot of slogans and taglines. Now, slogans and taglines are legally protected just like brand names. When a brand or slogan is registered with the US federal government, it becomes a trademark. This registration gives the owner exclusive right to use that name or phrase in connection with their product or services, helping to prevent others from copying or misusing their brand identity. Libel is also key to the business of advertising. Libel is a false or misleading statement about a person. In such cases, you must prove the following. A false statement was communicated to the media. The libeled person must be identified or identifiable. Actual injury or monetary loss must result. The person accused of libel is proved to be willfully negligent or to have malicious intent. As we wrap this lecture, I want to talk about some big legal issues that are shaping digital advertising today. Net neutrality is a major one. It's the idea that internet service providers like Comcast or Verizon can't block or slow down certain websites or charge extra to access specific content. It was protected in 2015, but that protection was rolled back in 2018. Whether it comes back depends on who's in charge politically, and it has a big impact on how easily brands can reach people online. Social media censorship is another hot topic. The debate centers around Section 230, which protects platforms like Facebook and YouTube from being held legally responsible for what users post. If that changes, it could seriously affect the way advertising works online and where those ad dollars go. Then there are AI powered advertising. Devices like Alexa and Siri are constantly collecting data from our interactions, which raises real concerns about privacy. 5G is rolling out quickly, but the laws that govern it haven't been caught up yet. And finally, the Lanham Act's disparagement clause, which used to ban offensive trademarks, was struck down by the Supreme Court as a violation of free speech. That means now it's up to brands to self regulate and use some common decency. The bottom line is laws are always changing. As creatives, we need to stay informed, trust our gut, and when in doubt, ask a legal professional.